All right, I'm going to start with the lowercase l, and it's an easy one. And then we're going to do the letter A, all straight lined letters. A is a little bit more complicated, but you'll pick up on it right away. So I'm going to zoom in here to where the L is, and I'm going to do all of this at the same time. So what I want to do is, first of all, I'm going to do a command Y so that I can see the strokes. And what I want to do is, like I said before, eliminate the 2 points on the left, so I can click and drag around those 2 points and delete them. Now, before I delete them, I'm going to hold the Option key down, select the whole letter, do a Command C for copy so that I have it in my clipboard. While the letter is still selected, I'm going to go to the Object drop-down menu and I'm going to slide down to my paths and I'm going to add anchor points. The reason I'm doing it this way is because between every anchor point that currently exists, a new one's going to be brought in, which is going to be exactly in the center. And the reason I'm doing this now with the other letter in the clipboard was because the other letter doesn't have any of these middle anchor points. This is okay for me to use for my grid or for my guides. So I'm going to make that into a guide right now while it's selected. So you can go to the View drop-down menu and slide down to Guides and hit Command or Control 5. On a Mac, it's Command. And so that makes it into a guide. If I do a Command Y again, you can see that it's now an outline of a guide. And now I'm going to do a Command V for paste. I still have that original letter of the letter L in my clipboard. And let me give myself a little bit of space here so I can eliminate these 2 strokes. I've got the direct selection tool. I'm going to click and drag along these 2 strokes, delete them, and now I'm going to go and double check on my view and see what's open. I want to make sure I have my smart guides turned on and my snap to point and snap to glyph. I don't need to snap to the grid or not at this stage of the game. And so I'll go ahead and now select this. I'm holding the Option key down with the direct selection tool. That guarantees that I've got the whole stroke. And now I can grab this and drag it over here and just kind of move it around until it snaps. And you'll see it snap right to that center line. This one's done. So if I do a Command Y, the current condition of this stroke is set up for a fill. So I'm just going to reverse this. Or you can do a Shift X. That'll flip it around. And so it flips around the fill to a stroke. And I'm going to do a Command F10. That calls up my stroke variations. On a PC, it's Control F10. And I'm going to change the stroke size to 10. And there's my lighter version of the lowercase l. So that one's done. Okay, so now um, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to, just for the sake of staying organized, I'm going to create a new layer. And whenever I'm done with a stroke, I'll select the stroke and I'll just drag the single stroke up to the next layer. And I'll also turn it invisible so I don't go looking for it. So let's go do the letter A. So we'll scroll over here. I'll do the capital A. Okay, so same process as before. I want to make a copy of the letter A, and I'm going to paste it out over here, Command V. And now what I'm interested in is converting the letter A into a guide. So I'll click on the whole letter A. Then what I can do is add the anchor points in the middle. So I'm going to go to the Object drop-down menu and go to the path and select anchor points. Now, on my Adobe Illustrator, I went ahead and programmed custom keys for myself since I use this feature a lot, not just on this project. So I've got my Option, Command, and the plus key to add anchor points. You probably don't have your keys set up that way. You may want to set it up that way. Or you'll just have to keep coming to the menu and making that selection. So I'm adding my anchor points, and if I come over here and click on my letter, you can see that this one got centered between these two and this one got centered over here. Okay, now that I'm going to select everything again, and I'm going to make them into a guide, Command 5 or Control 5 on the Mac, on the PC. And now what I want is this stroke and this stroke to line up with the point that's right in here in the middle. And I want this stroke over here. So I'm going to select just the two top corners. I'm going to do a Command C for copy, and I'm going to do a Command V for paste. And you can see, let me reverse my selection here. You can see that I've got just a single stroke over here. So I'm holding the Option key down so I can select the whole thing. And now I'm going to plop that guy so that it lines up and snaps to my original letter. Now I can select the stroke on the left, just the stroke on the left, click on this point and drag this over until it snaps to that center spot right there. And I can do the same thing on the other side. Click this and drag that over here. And as soon as it snaps, and it does help to have the smart guides on so you can see where things are starting to snap. And as soon as it snaps to that center point, that's what you want. Okay, so there's my intersection down here on the bottom, and it's lining up in there. And so I'm going to go ahead and select all of the strokes, and I'm going to go ahead and give them some width. So again, I'll come over here, I'll do a Command F10 on my Mac, and I'll change that to 10 as well. And so that takes care of that stroke. Now it is definitely overshooting on the cap line. I'll have to come back and modify that later. But essentially I got what I wanted out of the character. Now I need to worry about my crossbar. So I'm going to just select a rectangle. I'm going to use the rectangle to determine the center. So I'm going from this anchor point over here to this anchor point over here, and I'm letting it snap to that point. Let me make this a little bit thinner. So I'll make that, instead of 10 pixels, I'll make it 0.125. So that way we can see where the strokes are. Close that. So you can see where the strokes are there. But if I select this, you see it's got a center point. I'm going to use that center point to draw my crossbar. So I'll just steal the crossbar that I've got over here on top. I'll select that. And I'm selecting just that stroke right there, right up above, this one in here. And I'll do it with the direct selection tool. Let me do that again. So I'm just selecting that top, just clicking and dragging. I'm not selecting the points, just the stroke. I'm going to do a Command C for copy. I'm going to move over here so that my screen is centered. So when I paste it, it's going to be somewhere around here. Command V, and there's my stroke. I'm going to change that stroke width. It normally would be thinner, but in my particular case, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to make all of them the same size stroke. So Command F10, and 10 size stroke is fine. Okay, so now I'm going to click on this stroke. I'm going to move it and let it snap to that center spot right there. Make that a little bit bigger. There is a problem in here relative to how these strokes are going to be terminated. And there's more additional modifications that I'm going to be making to the letter. But for now, it's getting me pretty close to where I want to be. Okay, so back to this crossbar here. I want to click on this point, hold the Shift key down, and drag it over until it runs into the other character, or rather the other stroke. Do the same thing on this side. Click on that, drag it over, and I'll just let it snap to that point right in there. So that takes care of my letter A. Now again, if you need to make this shorter, there are other options in terms of, but I don't want to get into refining the typeface just yet. I want to refine it when I'm done all my letters. But when the time comes for me to refine it, I can just do some Pathfinder minus front type operations, and that could clean it up as well. Anyway, I don't need this rectangle here anymore that determined the center of my crossbar. And so this one's done for now. And like I said before, I'll come back to it. And by the way, there are other things that you'll be able to do to the letter. So if I go ahead and call up my stroke options, Command F10, I can add roundness to it. I can round this out. And then the other option, of course, oops, didn't mean to pull that out. The other option that I have on the stroke is to increase it. And you can kind of see the effect that this is going to have. So for now, I think I prefer the thinner stroke. So I'm going to leave it at 10. I may even go thinner. I may even go to something like a 5 or a 3. And that will resolve a lot of my problems that I have with the baseline shift that's going on. But again, this kind of double crossbar here, it's a different look to the typeface. It still may look okay after I bring everything together, but I won't be able to tell until after the fact. Okay, so let me select that again, and for now I'm making everything a size 10. Okay, so this one's done, and I'm just going to slide it up to my finish layer, and it's going to disappear because that layer is hidden, and so that takes care of the letter A. Okay, so I'm going to stop with that here with the letter A. That was a little bit more complicated, obviously, than the letter L. On the next movie, I'll be working on the letter S. It's a little complicated, but once you know the trick, it goes by fairly easily. We'll catch you in the next movie.